first of all, if you want to see this shot without any distractions, you can press Tab on your keyboard. If you press Tab, that takes away your sort of tool panel, you know, the folders and the catalogue panel, that sort of thing, and also to the right takes away some of the information that comes with it. So again, if you want to get it even bigger and see it on its own, just press F, and you'll be able to see that full size. So first thing we need to do, if you're a headshot photographer and if you're an actor, because I mean the reason I know a lot about this is because I trained as an actor, and if your headshot photographer gives you a headshot in this dimension, then they don't have a clue what they're talking about, because you need it to be 8x10. 8x10 basically just chops the bottom and the top off. So just make sure when you're resizing probably one of the most important things, make sure that you can resize it to 8x10, or half of that aspect is 4x5, but 8x10 is the standard industry sizing, 8 inches by 10 inches. So that's the first thing that I always do. I get my composition first. Some photographers are okay with chopping tops of heads off, you know, that sort of thing. Depends on what else is in the shot. I don't really have a problem with that, but on this occasion there's not really too much going on towards the bottom of the frame. So what we're going to do is we're going to use almost the top of the frame, and we're just going to park it just there. Press done. So now we've got a 10x8 image to work with. So that's the composition sorted. Now looking at this portrait, it doesn't really seem to be a lot of drama. Now what we can do, I always really like to create drama with shadows, but that's the last thing that I do. And one of the first things that I do is eyes. Now again, when I first started doing headshots, I didn't really have a guide to work from. I just used to do what I thought looked good. However, I used to go a little bit overboard. So just be careful when you are enhancing eyes. Don't do it too much. There's a little shortcut up here in the develop module. When you've clicked on, when you've selected your brush tool, your adjustment brush, you can select. If you hit the drop down here by effect, you can select all these presets. Now I always hit iris enhance, and I always do my own little thing to it as well. So make sure that that's selected. You've got iris enhance also selected, and you see that just pop into life a little bit more. Now what I always like to do is just increase the exposure. I wouldn't really go any further than 3/4 of a stop. Otherwise you start to look silly. Now again, you can do the same with your highlights and shadows. Highlights don't really seem to do that much to eyes, depends on the light you're shooting. Shadows seem to do what they do a little bit more. So I'd say your highlights a little bit further than your shadows, but again, they don't really seem to be making that much of a difference. One thing that you can go to town on is the saturation. I would recommend that you go to around about, I normally go to about 2/3 of the way across, or 3/4 of the way, and the same with clarity. Again, too much clarity looks a bit silly. However, it's only a small part of the portrait that you're enhancing. So if you drop that around about 2/3 of the way, hit done, zoom out, and you can have a look. So I think that already looks a lot better. It doesn't look silly, it doesn't look enhanced, it doesn't look too stupid. Always come out and have a look in, press F, and have a look. For example, if I'd have gone even further, I could have done this, and then I thought, oh, that looks brilliant. Then I come out of it, that looks ridiculous, doesn't it? So don't go too far with your eye selection. Just, I normally go, what did I say, about 75? Yeah, we'll stick it on 71. Sort of 3/4 of a stop. And then that looks pretty cool. Okay, so now what I like to do next is to spot remove. So with most people in the world, there are things that people don't really, that you could get rid of. Now the first thing that stayed consistent the whole way through is this little red blemish up here. So let's get rid of that. And what we're doing, we just select, and the top here, we just select the spot removal tool. And you can, I'm on a Mac here, so you know, if you just sort of use your finger to enlarge or decrease the size of that spot. And what we'll do is normally just clone it from as close as you can, and pick up some of those. I mean, I do a lot of interior photography, and it's the same premise. Anything that's cosmetic that can be removed, then get rid of it. But anything like a birthmark, that sort of thing, then you obviously need to keep that in. Because if you turn it to an audition and your headshot photographer has edited out that scar right across your eye, then you're in trouble. So let's get rid of these little sort of blemishes here, and then we'll just blend them into the cheek. So we've got more of a sort of a nicer balanced look. Again, if we zoom out. Now, Anne basically had a shave halfway through the session, because earlier on in the day we were doing some looks like this, for example. You know, we were doing different looks. He always has a beard, but it's great for you as an actor to show different styles. You know, so he had a dig in the grave, and naturally there are a couple of blemishes and a couple of stray hairs. So let's get rid of these little hairs here. And we can clone that with the cheek as well. That's good. Easy. And also he's got, sorry Ant, if you are watching this, he's got a little unsightly little bit where he's the one who actually pointed this out to me, just on his right eye. So we'll try and see if we can just get rid of that. And we'll just sort of clone those eyelashes in. And that'll look natural from a distance. So again, let's have a look at what we've done so far. Starting to look a lot better already. The next thing I'd like to do, because I'd like to leave the skin and the shadows to the end, so we'll do teeth next. So let's zoom into the teeth, and again, let's get our adjustment brush selected. We zoomed in here, and let's just draw the select, check that box, it says show selected mask, and then you can see what you're painting. And again, you can change the size of this brush by just using the mouse. And then let's just select those white bits. Try not to get anything on the lips, and if you do make a mistake, you can hit over here, erase, and then you can just take away those bits there. That's fine, that's good. Okay, good. So the best way, if we want to, that's pretty much everything selected. So the best way to look at what we've done is to make sure we've got that selected, first of all. So let's come out of that, and then if I hit that adjustment brush tool, we can see the one on the eye and the one over the teeth. So select the one over the teeth. So there we've got it. And then again, we go to those little presets and we go down to teeth whitening. And all that does really is knock down the saturation. Now again, with your exposure, you can go up, you can go down. You know, it depends if you want to, what look you're going for, but something nice and natural again, without taking the mickey. Again, I normally don't go much further than 3/4 of a stop. Highlights and shadows won't really do too much, but again, don't go do anything silly, but just keep taking a step back from it. Make sure you've got, see, that to me looks a little bit too false. That looks a bit better. That looks good. Okay. I'm just looking at those eyes again, and I'm going to take those down a bit because those eyes just look a little bit unrealistic to me. So let's just go in again. That's much better. Yeah, that's just a little subtle difference, but I was just a little bit concerned about what we could see there. So when I've taken away that little unsightly bit from the right eye, that looks really nice and tidy as well. We could maybe get rid of these little bits of hair on the right cheek. We'll do that next. But again, that'd be nice and easy. So we'll come out of that module and we'll get our spot removal tool, and let's actually deselect that. Let's zoom in, let's select it again, and let's just clone those little areas. Okay, that's brilliant. What are we looking on the nose? That's good. It's worth mentioning at this point as well that I shot with, here's my settings, I shot with a Canon 7D, and I also used my Sigma 2.8 70-200, which is a lovely little lens. It's got image stabilization, so it's even quite good down in the lower shutter speeds. But I mean, I was at 1,000th of a second here, so obviously no worries there. I shot down at 2.8 because I think if you've got a wide lens, you've got to use it, else there's no point, is there? And it was at ISO 400 because at 70 is not too bad with noise. So, right, let's carry on. Now what we'll do is we'll just pay a little bit more attention to the skin. So we'll start from the top and work our way down. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is look at the shadows. So again, we're going to choose our adjustment brush, which is up here in the top corner, and we're going to drop that down to burn. This is where dodging and burning comes into it. So what we're going to do is we're just subtly going to paint over the shadows, and we're just going to enhance a little bit of drama. Now, as you can see, to Ant's right, to sort of my left as I'm shooting him, there was a wall. Now that wall is obviously kicking out quite a shadow on the right hand side of his face, and the left hand side of his face is where the source of the light was coming from. So obviously that gives a nice look, gives it quite a nice look, and as well you can actually see in the eye that we actually used a reflector. So the reflector is just, we're reading it like a newspaper. So and you can't do a head. I really am skeptical for photographers that do headshot shoots without a reflector. If you use a natural light, you need a reflector. I think you do. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to darken, and I'll check the box to show the mask overlay, so you can see what I'm doing. So what I like to do is I just like to enhance the peripherals, the peripheries of the face. I'm just going to show you what that looks like. So if we select that and go up and down. Now if we go that back to 0, burn tells us to go, I think the actual burn module tells us to go -30. Now that looks quite nice. If we go any further than that, it starts to look a little bit too, you can actually see where I've painted. So come up to about -25, -30, that looks pretty nice. And it really kicks out a nice little light on the eyes as well. So again, last thing I'm going to do, now I really try to avoid this, a lot of photographers love doing this but I hate it, is smoothing. Now if you're going to smooth, you've got to do it quite subtly, otherwise you'll look like you're made of wax or made of plastic, and I think it looks absolutely awful. So again, we're going to go to that little module, and the shortcut there is soften skin, and if you just look what that does, nothing else is really selected. I'll bring that sharpness down to 0 apart from the clarity. So that's clarity 100%, that's minus. So let's take all the clarity out of the end of the eyes, and let's increase the highlights and the shadows just under there. Good. But what we don't want to do, we don't want to detract from the eyes or get unwanted attention to the eyes. So don't do anything too stupid. It's all about subtlety with headshots. And the final thing I wanted to do is just on that neck, just wanted to smooth that over too, because obviously we did a lot of work down there. So just down here, and that little bit there. I just want to add just a smoothness there, and you'll see it flick once I've selected it. You'll see the change. Here we go. So let's select soften skin. There we go. So it's very subtle. Now what we can do here is we could even reduce the shadow to make it a little darker under that chin. Yeah, I think I like that. Yeah, we'll put the highlights the other way. Right, that's pretty cool. So I'd say that's almost a pretty good headshot now. And the last thing I like to do is, or one of the last things I like to do is just add a vignette. Straight away, you're telling whoever's looking at it, make sure you look in the centre, and don't be distracted by the background, sort of thing. We've got a nice background with evenly weighted sort of light behind, so what that does is just creates a nice little archway to see what we're shooting. And if you want, you can mess with the white balance of the shot, but I try and get it right in camera. I think I shot here with a Canon, so I shot with the daylight function, but I sometimes like to go with a slightly colder look. It's just my look, really. I just think that looks a little bit cooler, quite literally. Looks nice, and so So that's a finished headshot. That looks pretty cool to me. I'm pretty happy with that. And you can see what I've done just to recap. So if I zoom in, we've got rid of that little unsightly, I don't know what you call that, a growth. Oh, sorry, mate. And we've also enhanced the eyes. We've got rid of the little blemishes on the top, under the chin. You know, you wouldn't think that he just had a shave about 6 minutes before we took this shot. So we got rid of that. We've really gone to town on the shadows, and that, I'm sure you'll agree, that looks really dramatic. We've added a vignette, which looks really nice. So our edges are nice and dark. I think that's a pretty good headshot. Right, so thanks for watching this tutorial, this video. I'm going to be back with more soon. I've got loads of videos I'm going to show. And yeah, so stay tuned. See you soon. Cheers, bye.